And it isn't. And then on the other end, a lot of people who bought into what he was selling or what, NFTs that were being sold or whatever random crypto scams were out there, they had their own vulnerabilities of maybe they were hurt in the financial crash. Maybe they feel like it was disproportionately young men, right? So maybe they feel like the American dream of getting the house and having the family and the basic middle class prosperity wasn't really open to them, and they're being sold this sort of hero journey narrative about fortune favors the brave and you got to get in early and this is secret special knowledge that's going to allow you to achieve your goals of wealth creation that has been held out to you of what is at the core of being a man. It's a very seductive story. It's a very seductive story. Why is it all connected
to the manscape? The manscape and crypto and NFTs.
Because it all is this whole.
It's interesting. Some of the most viral content that we've done in the last several months is just problems with men. We did this video. It's the problems of boys and men with the author Richard Reeves. He was actually fantastic. He wrote a great book on this.
You'd have a great conversation with him, actually.
Viral. And he talks a lot. He's like, look, I understand. He's like, I'm not an anti-feminist. He's like, what we are talking about, though, is in the last 2 decades, we've had a crisis amongst young men. And something we talk about on the show is what Crystal's getting at with the decline of the American dream, the idea that you were going to do better than your parents. And that's just not really true anymore. Even if you went to school and you have a shit ton of student debt, even if you're working class in terms of wage growth, upward mobility, people who are graduating from high school who are men and working class having much more trouble actually finding a mate. So there's a big college imbalance right now where a lot of men are dropping out of college. They no longer feel accepted, and you're reaching almost 60-40 splits of women and men in college, especially who are graduating. A lot of women who have college degrees don't actually want to date somebody who doesn't have a college degree. And so there's this big imbalance in the dating market. And then also amongst single men, you see a big decline in lifetime wages. But what really makes me really sad is the drug overdose numbers, and they die much earlier. They're much less likely to exercise, much less likely to fulfill a stronger life. And that's what gets to the charlatanism of being able to buy into the charlatan, signing up for some MLM scheme that you might see online, buying crypto. By the way, you're looking at a crypto victim. I lost $5,000 on BlockFi, got fucked out by that.
There's a lot of men that feel by their very existence that they're bad.
Yeah. It's a big cultural
problem. This thought of toxic masculinity and the things that they're attracted to, they think they've been told are stupid or, that they're evil or, there's a thing about being a man in this world today that I think we have to look at all human beings as just human beings.
Yeah.
And you can't help that you were born a man, and you can't help the things that you enjoy. Like if you enjoy going to football games, you enjoy getting loud with your friends. This idea of toxic masculinity, it's there's toxic aspects of men, and that's real. That's a reality of being a male human being. If you look at the history of war, it's all started by men. Men did all of it. Men do all the raping. I had this guy on the podcast once. It was hilarious. He goes, actually, statistically speaking, men get raped more than women do. I go, yeah, by other men, you fucking idiot. I go, it's not packs of cheerleaders raping football players. The fuck is wrong with you? The problem is 100% men. That's the problem with manosphere, is that there's grifters in the manosphere that aren't actual real men.
Yes.
And by real men, I mean they don't have resolve. If you took them on a hike, they would get tired. They would sit down. You would have to leave them behind. They're not. The word tough is a word, but it's oh, you're tough. No, mental toughness is fucking important. It's a really important quality of life, and it's been diminished to this thing that's a part of toxic masculinity ideology. And
and this is where, the Andrew Tates of the world come in and they perform this just caricaturish, ridiculous, masculine, whatever they're doing. And then also maybe as a sex trafficker, we'll find out. We'll see what happens there. But it again speaks to the fact there used to be a really clear sort of cultural narrative, right or wrong, about what it was to be a man. And at the core of that was being a provider, right? For women, it was it was other things, being a mother and a nurturer and the way you look. For men, it's about the wallet, right? Yeah. The pocketbook. And then, so I think when we've had an assault on the middle class, on the working class, where it becomes so much harder to be able to fulfill that cultural narrative of what it is supposed to be a man. I think that's been, this is as a woman, but, you know, from my external perspective, I think that's been really, really devastating. And
I think it's also a broader cultural thing where being in the mainstream, you know, mainstream masculinity is not really represented. And because of that, that also opens a space for a lot of grifters. I mean, I was looking at that with the whole Liver King thing, which I know you covered quite a bit, but I saw something.
Well, I called it. I didn't cover
did you?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I called it way in advance. I'm like, that guy's on the sauce.
Just from the looking at him?
100%.
Yeah.
So you just don't naturally get that way?
Yeah, you can naturally get that way if you have superior genetics and you're in your 20s.
Yeah, you're right.
Like if you're
And
in
this
your
dude was how
20s,
old?
this in his 40s.
He's like 45, yeah.
He didn't have. He's carrying around too much mass. Like you would have to be in your. By the way, in your 20s, you know, your hormones are flying, right? If you're like 21, 22 years old, there's some natural guys that I follow that are fucking jacked.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of jacked. That guy's a juiced up jacked. And it's hard. He also, I think something's going on with his abs too. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe
the
they're-
surgery? You think that's real?
I don't know, but anyone who's willing to lie about doing steroids when it's so obvious to anyone who understands hormonal optimization and steroid use and like that more plates, more dates guy, Derek, who's
Love that guy.
I love that guy. You know, he called it we both called it way in advance. Like there's not a chance in hell. There's no way. It's like if you look at Mr. Olympia,
Right.
no one thinks they don't take steroids.
Yeah. Right.
Zero people. And you would be correct.
But then when you look at that, like, do you blame him because all his competition's doing the same shit, right?
What is
Well,
that?
Liver King's just
no.
he's an influencer.
No, she means
I'm
Mr.
talking about
Olympia.
Mr. Olympia.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course.
fine. Right.
Of course. That's the same way I think about like Tour de France. Tour de France is a dirty sport. And it always was. And, you know, the greatest documentary about it is Icarus. And it's not about Tour de France, but it's about bicycle racing and doping and how prevalent it is. And worldwide. It's amazing. Have you seen it?
We had him on the show.
Brian Fogel?
Yeah, we had Brian on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
I remember.
He's the
Talk
same
about, like,
guy
the
that
Shogi
did The
thing.
Dissident,
Yeah.
the Amal Shogi documentary, which is
Oh,
another
yes.
amazing documentary.
yes.
He's fucking fantastic.